Cerberus+1 is now my new favorite weapon because of how many people simply do not understand how it works. So, in this episode of my court-mandated community service, I'm going to be educating the public, the people who are still playing Destiny 2, on how Cerberus+1 actually functions. Because yes, I stand by it when I say that this thing is much better than you think it is, and not only that, you do not understand how this works. When I say you, I mean specifically these people who are going to show up on screen right now commenting why they think that the Cerberus+1 catalyst is actually garbage. So, here we go. Cerberus+1 on paper has some of the most cooked stats known to man. 33 impact, 0 range, 25 stability, 32 handling, 35 reload speed. This doesn't make sense. The nearest comparable auto rifle that has these stats is as follows. Nothing. There isn't a single auto rifle in the entire game that even begins to come close to on paper stats, with the exception of maybe Kvastov if you squint and blur your eyes, and hey, that's just 3 Cerberuses in a trench coat. You're not allowed to be here. This is for grown-ups only. What I mean to say is that this gun has absolutely no comparisons. It is as unique gets, and that's what they were going for when making this gun. And because of that, you cannot treat this like any other auto rifle in the game. It's more apt to compare it to a shotgun, but some of you intend on using this thing as an auto rifle. So, I'm gonna do some quick damage testing real quick, just to prove to you that this thing does funny things at every range, because its range graph is not as simple as you think it is. And thus the catalyst has purpose when it is implied for its intended function. This thing is shooting 4 projectiles each, and from 10 meters away, it is doing 17 or 16 damage per shot, because even at 10 meters exactly, this thing is remarkably inconsistent. But swapping to alt-fire at the same distance, this thing is doing 22, 23, 24 damage per shot, and best part is you're landing more pellets at 10 meters. Moving back to 15 real quick, as you can see, regular fire, you're struggling to land 2 pellets of the 4 doing 18 damage, but at 15 meters, switching to the alt fire, you're doing 20 damage, landing more pellets of the same type. Now, let's move just a little bit closer to show you exactly what I mean by this thing's range graph is inverted. Observe. Moving up close and personal to the 1 meter Peter range, you can see that this thing's regular fire is decreasing its damage to 15 and 16 respectively, and the alt fire increases damage to 23 everything respectively. Not only that, but you're actually hitting all the shots. Now, you're not always going to be at the 1 meter Peter range, however, this does prove that this does something, and it does matter for damage testing if you are taking everything into account. You cannot simply say Catalyst reduces DPS so bad. You have to look at everything in the way that you're using everything. And this too does apply to PvE. This isn't just Crucible that I'm talking about, but it's easier to test it in Crucible. So, moving on to Carl the Colossus, as you can clearly see, moving closer to your target is going to decrease your individual damage per pellet. However, you are going to be able to hit more pellets. So there is a little bit of a trade-off in the range between 10 and 20% at maximum effectiveness. Cerberus's range is remarkably consistent between that 7 to 25 meter range, but as soon as you get outside of that, it's falling off a cliff. Not to mention, you're barely going to be hitting any pellets, because the pellet spread is not consistent either. This is where the alternate fire comes into play, because not only is it a consistent spread that you're going to be hitting the majority of your pellets on, but moving closer, you're just going to be getting even more damage between that 0 and 10 meter range. Think of it this way. If your opponent is far enough away where their name tag or health bar is covering up most of their body, you're probably not going to be using Cerberus in the first place. But other than that, you're better off just using the focused fire to get that tighter pellet spread to be able to hit most of your shots on target, because this thing's range fall off is so funky, it's almost not worth using seriously. But that's besides the point. I'm now going to spend the rest of my days attempting to educate this community on why Cerberus+1 is actually the best auto rifle in the entire game, and nothing, and I mean nothing, anyone can ever do is going to change my mind on this, specifically because people do not care enough about the game to learn how it works. Now, here's where I have to get a little bit dishonest, because even though I've spent this entire video defending the alternate fire of Cerberus, saying that in peak case scenarios you're going to be better off using the shotgun fire compared to the regular fire, that's actually not the case more often than not. This gun is so weird, it doesn't matter how much testing you do, because in the end, this thing sucks. It is one of the worst designed exotics in the entire game. It punishes you for playing with the gun the way it's meant to be intended. Same thing with the catalyst, it just punishes you. Its catalyst fixes its own issue. However, the issues it still has are so severe that I cannot comfortably recommend anybody try this thing. You are guaranteed to sabotage yourself if you want to use Cerberus on a consistent basis. Now, here is the part of the video where I'm going to recommend how to actually make this thing usable, because all hope is not lost. Cerberus+1 does have specific use case scenarios where you're going to see better than average results being attributed to this gun, and even at that, it's just done because of buffs via subclass or via playstyle. For starters, any way possible that you can get extra damage or figure out a way to get any extra DPS period on this thing is going to be ideal. That's using Pocket Radiant, using the shattering of stasis crystals, using Void, Weapons of Light, Wealth Radiance. Any little bit of damage boost that you can do, this thing is going to be better. I personally like using Radiant. That being said, specifically Hunter with the double dodge acrobat step to trigger Radiant whenever you want, because that little bit of extra damage turns this thing from needing to hit 12 pellets to only being able to hit 10 pellets to actually kill someone, giving you a little bit of more wiggle room when it comes to the peak or ideal time to kill and ranges to kill. For Titans, obviously, run Void. Void currently is the best subclass in the entire game for Titans specifically. Solar Titan isn't particularly good. There's no consistent way to get Radiant without hitting the throwing hammer or hitting a melee charge, but even at that, you're not one-shotting with those. So using Void to get that overshield and abusing the Weapons of Light that comes with Bubble are going to be the best ways that you can play with this. You might want to say funny, haha, Actium Warbreak, but this thing is a cleanup. This thing is good for cleanups because at the peak distances, you're going to be hitting 30 in a crit from a headshot from both the regular fire and the alternate fire, even though if you're using Weapons of Light, you're probably going to be wanting to use the regular fire. And to disappoint you Warlocks, I'm going to say the same exact thing. Get Radiant, abuse Wells, use Solar to the best of your ability to be able to use this thing effectively. I love the idea of Cerberus. I love the fact that they attempted to do something unique, but this thing genuinely sucks. I am hitting my head against a wall trying to get this thing to work in Crucible, and I can't figure it out besides abusing meta builds like Hunter, using Strand Threadling, spamming them everywhere, and then using this for cleanup or team shotting with this thing. You're going to lose most one-on-ones. It is so punishing. If you could hit every single shot with the alternate fire of Cerberus at the ideal range, you're going to kill everything faster than they can kill you. That is an indisputable fact. However, that's not the case because of how unpredictable this gun is. This gun needs some serious help. It has been abandoned. I think it's been abandoned on purpose. They don't want to touch this thing. They want it to be a gimmick exotic that crazy people like me come out of the woodwork to try to defend and spread misinformation and assume that this thing is good when it is actually not good. For my closing thoughts, Cerberus is a gun. It is one of the guns of all time, and I'd wager to say that it is normally a bad gun. However, when you look at the totality of Cerberus, using it as intended, swapping fire modes where necessary, abusing specific angles, using the shotgun and shotgun range, the auto rifle spread and auto rifle range, you're going to have fun. It's going to be frustrating. I would recommend everybody try to use it, but I'm not going to die on the hill that this thing is good. I will die on the hill that the catalyst is more useful than you think it actually is. And with that, thank you for watching my video. Thank you for listening to me rant for 10 minutes, and have a great day. Goodbye.